Hey there guys, DMO73 here, bringing you another feature match for the week. Today I am playing a green, black, white Yggdrasil tree control that was used by Corey Linhares to take 9th place at the Montreal AGP. I made a one tech choice change, but other than that, the deck is card for card the same as the one he used. I contacted him and he said it was cool for me to run it for you guys to show off. And it was a really, really different take on Tree, so I thought you guys would enjoy it. And I am playing against my friend Robert Lamb, who is playing a red-green Alexander list that he updated a little bit with cards from the from Moonlit Savior. So pretty fun stuff. Kind of more of a casual game just to kind of show off what the Tree list looks like. But hopefully you'll enjoy it and see some cool stuff. So I won the die roll, so I'm going to be going first. So the whole point of the tree list is to be able to kind of sit and just kind of control your opponent to the point of where even if they can't kill you, you start playing the angels, which then start gaining you life and put your opponent in an even deeper hole. So like even if they could kill you, they still have to deal with tree. So the point is to ramp up your own life before they even get to tree, so that it literally just becomes an uphill battle that they can't get rid of. So first stone's going to be a Black Silence. I'm going to play that Elvish Priest and pass. Pretty basic ramping engine in the deck. It is a control deck, so Elvish Priest and Feastings are pretty important. So Robert's going to tap for stone. He's going to hit that red-green stone off the top. And then he just passes the turn to me. So I'm going to tap for a second stone. And I see that Feasting that I have in my hand, and I know that I'm playing against aggro, so my thought is, hey, I'll just, save up my stuff and get some additional ramping next turn by flashing and Feasting. He gets that second green stone. He's deciding whether or not he wants to play a creature or just kind of be patient. He decides to try to be patient, and at the end of his turn, I try to flash in a Feasting, and being patient for him actually paid off because he is able to use to slow me down that wall of wind that he has in his hand. So he's deciding which one he wants to cast it with, but it would make sense to just cast it with the basic green. So because I tap out to cast the Feasting, I have no way to flash it, pay for the extra cost of wall of wind. So that was actually a pretty strong play from Robert there. I go ahead and spend some time to get an extra Elvish Priest out there, and I just kind of sit and wait. He's not playing super aggressively at the start. He, just doesn't have the stuff in his hand to be able to do so. So as a control player, that makes me feel pretty confident because I can have the time to be able to control the board and just kind of sit and wait. So not necessarily having any big threats on the board isn't a problem because I'm not being beat down with a lot of stuff. And that's the thing that Tree is really good for in control, in the fact that, if your opponent does decide to rush you down, you have a way to stabilize in the form of Alice. That's always going to happen, which is pretty nice. So he plays Velsavarian Dragon, exiles 2 cards when it comes into play, and then goes to my turn. We had a little bit of a hiccup there that we needed to take care of, so that's why you see that little jump cut there. So I play Seth the Arbiter. The point of the Seth the Arbiter is to help me recur those cards from my graveyard, the creatures from my graveyard. Things like, by killing his stuff, I can bring back that Feasting, or I can bring back an Elvish Priest, or I can make use of another Angel or something like that and use them multiple times. The deck also in the sideboard package, even though I don't feature it here, he did have some discard stuff, and that works really well with Seth to help fuel his draw power. So Robert's going to tap for another stone. Going to pay 2 to put out a D'Artagnan. As you see, he has a lot of Vingolf cards in here. Robert is a guy from our locals who really enjoys playing with the Vingolf stuff, and so huge thanks to him for being willing to sit down and play with me. So swings in for 5 at my Elvish Priest, has to exile 2 cards, and in response to the Velsavarian trigger, I'm going to Stoning to Death. the Velsivarian, so he still has to exile 2 cards, but Velsivarian's going to die, and then Seth's trigger goes on the chase, and I get to bring back that feasting to my hand. At that point, he is just going to pass. Now, I could have saved the stoning to death and just blocked with Seth, but he did have 2 stones open, and I didn't want to lose my Seth, so I didn't want to risk that anything bad was going to happen that way. So I pay 200 here to be able to pay for a second light, and I play a Celestial Wing Seraph. So Celestial Wing Seraph, when she enters the field, you get to search your deck for a 4-drop or less Angel Resonator, and we got a really powerful Resonator from Angel Resonator from Moonlit Savior in the form of Fallen Angelic Destroyer Lucifer. So I can pull out a Lucifer from my deck and put it into the field, which then triggers Lucifer's effect to force my opponent to sack 1 creature. Now, if I had had other things in the grave, when that creature gets sacked, Seth would have been able to bring it back to my hand, which is really, really nice. So moving into Robert's turn. So he plays that Athena, and then plays a Geronimo. And he just passes the turn to me. So no real action here from Robert. Goes into my turn. Tap for another Lightstone, which is nice, and now I don't have to keep burning myself. And you're going to see a little notification here on the screen in a second, and I'll explain. So I tapped the wrong stones here. I tap a Light and a Moonshade. I should have tapped one of my 3 Darkness and Moonshades for Lucifer's ability. I just got a little carried away and ahead of myself. Lucifer's ability to gain lifelink does cost Darkness and Moon, not Light and Moon, so I just tapped the wrong stone here, and I'm about to play a Lucifer. I have the right will to be able to do both those moves since I have the 3 Darkness stones. I just wanted to clarify for you guys that that was what was happening. As you can see, there's very clearly 3 black silent stones. I just tapped them in the wrong order. So Celestial Wing Seraph's going to swing in for 1,000 in the air, and I'm going to gain 900 life. And he's going to have to take 1,000 damage. And then he's going to use Crime and Punishment on my Celestial Wing Seraph, which will then have Celestial deal 1,000 damage to herself, which is enough to kill her. So we did have to take a lot of damage in order to be able to make that move, but it is a good way to get the creature off the board. The other thing is that he's forgetting that his Athena, every time he took damage, so those 2 times, Athena should have actually gotten stronger. So right now his Athena gets plus 2 100/100 counters every time he takes damage. So his Athena would actually be right now an 11/11, so pretty strong. So he's trying to figure out what he wants to do with this Athena. He knows he's in a pretty bad way though, so he's just gonna try and do kind of a cool move here. So he plays the Bonsai attack, which will then actually make her an 18/18. So she is ginormous at this point. And then he's going to play Priscia's Call to Action, which gives her target attack. and he gets to draw a card. And it gives her swiftness as well, but he gets to draw a card. And then he's going to use his Athena then to swing in at my untapped Lucifer. I'm going to go in and block it with the Elvish Priest, just because of the fact that now I can, like, in reality it doesn't really matter because his initial attack target is Lucifer, so the pierce damage isn't going to go through. So I actually end up just costing myself 2 resonators. But I did force him to, I don't know why he decided to spend a evolution of limits there. So Athena dies at the end of the turn because of bonsai attack. Seth triggers and I get to bring back my Elvish Priest that I blocked with. Going into my turn, he's tapped out and I have lethal on board, but I do a couple things here just to kind of show what the deck is capable of. Corey had this card as a 1-of and I wanted to make use of it. So this is Shadow Doppelganger. When it's entering the field, I remove a Resonator from my graveyard, and it enters the field as a copy of that card. So I exile Celestial Wing Seraph, and then when it enters, it has Celestial Wing Seraph's ability, so I get to go into my deck and grab another Lucifer. So it's a really cool way to kind of make use of the fact that if a Celestial gets killed, you can still bring it back. And then I'm going to spend 2 to give one of my Lucifer that can attack lifelink, and I'm going to play Forment of the World Tree just because I can. Send all 4 of my cards to the grave, or to the bottom of the deck, draw 5 cards, and gain 800 life. I just wanted to make use of the cards on camera that Corey was using in the deck. He was playing that as a 1-of in the deck. So then 900 in the air, which puts me at 7,300 life because I gained that much, and then Seth's going to swing in for the 600 to finish the game. So that's the end of game 1, and so now we will move into game 2. So Robert plays that first red stone and then passes, goes to me. I get a Gusting Sky Stone, play an Elvish Priest, and pass. So pretty standard first turn move for the Yggdrasil list. It's a green zone. He decides to play, I think that's Sun Tzu. Sun Tzu lets him tap it to give something else swiftness, which is a pretty nice move. I play another Elvish Priest. Pay 200 to play a third Elvish Priest, so now I've got kind of a wall of priests going on, but I'm also very significantly ahead in terms of will count. And against an aggressive deck, if he can't get rid of those Elvish Priests, I'm just going to be at a pure advantage for the whole game. A control deck being that far up on a aggro deck without any kind of answers is pretty devastating. So he plays 3 to play a William Wallace. So William Wallace has the neat effect that she can't be blocked by anything that has 600 or less attack, which means that my Elvish Priests are unable to block, and he uses Sun Tzu to give her swiftness and then swing in for 700 damage. So I'm down to 31. Now, this is normally would be an issue because I can't block it and I've got to try to answer it, but it's not that big of a deal because every time he attacks me, it pushes me closer to the Alice. So I'm going to spend 200 for a second light and tap 2 of my Elvish Priests for a Book of Genesis. So the way Book of Genesis works is at the start of each of my main phases, I put a counter on it, and then I go into my deck and get a creature from it for free that has the same total cost as that. So this is essentially putting Robert on a clock, where turn 1 I'm only going to get a 1-drop, turn 2 I get a 2-drop, turn 3 I get a 3-drop. And this deck has everything from 1 through 6. So I'm getting essentially a free Resonator every turn, eventually ending with the Alice, the Avatar Alice. So essentially he's at a point where if he goes too fast, he gets hit by an Alice. If he goes too slow, he gets hit by an Alice. So he's trying to figure out what he wants to do here. So he taps 2. And plays the Genghis Khan, which will then let him untap one of his stones. Then he plays 2. Just thinking about the order in which he wants to do this stuff. But he plays 2. And he plays the Kusanagi sword on William Wallace, which then, when it enters, will burn my Elvish Priest to death. It's like 600 damage. And then he plays 1 more to play a Silver Shoes on William Wallace. So William Wallace is now a 10-10 dealing, or a 10-8 dealing 1200 damage. And he's going to give Genghis Khan Swiftness with Sun Tzu. So I'm going to take 1200 and then 1500 for a total of 1700 damage this turn. Really, really strong play from Robert. Honestly, it might have been better for him to go for my Elvish Priests and slow me down a little bit rather than go for my face, especially since there is the Guardian Alice, part of Yggdrasil. But I think he decided to just try to go for aggressive rather than trying to control the board state. So I got that Elvish Priest off the Book of Genesis. Trying to decide how I want to play my cards here. Paying 5 for Celestial Wing Seraph by paying 200 life. Just want to get that Lucifer back out. Force him to sack one of his creatures. He's going to sacrifice the Genghis Khan rather than the Sun Tzu, which makes sense. Sun Tzu helps him get creatures onto the board faster. I also could have tapped that differently. I could have just tapped down all 3 of my Elvish Priests so that I could still have 2 Darkness Stones up if I had a Stoning to Death in my hand. I can't remember if I had a Stoning in my hand at this point. I believe I might have, so it would have been smarter for me to actually just tap all 3 Priests and leave up the 2 Darkness Stones to be able to kill something on his turn. So Robert's trying to figure out how he wants to deal with all this stuff. He's got 2 angels staring him down. He hasn't taken any damage yet, but he's got 2 angels staring him down. And a whole lot of resonators in the field. He's gonna tap for another stone. Play another Genghis Khan, which is going to let him untap one of those green stones. He's going to play an Attila the Hun, which will boost up William Wallace for the turn. So now William is a 12-10, dealing 1400 damage. And then he's gonna play, I can't remember the name of that resonator from Vingulf, but what it does is whenever it attacks, it gets 300 attacks. So it's a 3/4 that becomes a 6/4 whenever it attacks. So he's gonna give it swiftness for the turn, so he can try to get that damage in. He's Gonna swing in with William Wallace. I could have blocked it, but it makes no sense for me to. And so the Yggdrasil replacement effect is going to happen because it would deal damage enough for lethal. So instead, it's only going to take me down to 100 life, and I get to bring out an Avatar of the Seven Lands Alice and an Excalibur X from my deck. So, for those of you who don't know what this does, Excalibur X means that I, the player, can no longer be targeted by his effects, and any if Alice gains 500. And anytime Alice would be targeted by anything, my opponent has to pay an additional 2, otherwise it immediately gets canceled for free. Now Alice's ability, she has quick cast and target attack. She's naturally a 14/14, so she becomes a 19/19. Or no, she's a 15/15, gains 4/4 from the sword. So she's a 19/19. And she says that anytime I, the player, would take damage, it gets redirected to her instead. So now he's got to be able to answer that Alice before he can even try to kill me, because all that damage is just going to get soaked into her. So he swings in with that Resonator, and I go ahead and block with Celestial Wing Seraph because there's really no point in not. Book of Genesis is going to trigger, and I'm going to get in a Little Prince. So Little Prince gains 400 for every card on my side of the field, for every Resonator on my side of the field that has a different total cost than him. So like he gets 400 if there's a 1-drop. He gets 400 if there's a 2-drop. I know I have 3 Elvish Priests. He's only going to get the gains once for the Elvish Priests. It's just for each like total cost different than his own, not for each number of total cost. So right now when he comes into the field from Book of Genesis, he's just an 18/18, just right out the gate, because I have the 4 different costs other than himself. That is massive. I'm going to go ahead and pay 3 to play another 7 Excalibur X, which makes my Alice a 24/24, and whenever it gets targeted, he has to pay 4 additional. So I've essentially made Alice untargetable, and pretty darn impossible to kill with all the blockers and stuff that I have. So now it's safe for me to start trying to make my plays and get aggressive. I'm going to tap for 4. I'm going to play another Lucifer. Oh no, I was about to play another Lucifer. I decided to change my mind there. Played it a little cheaper. And just played a Stunning to Death on William Wallace to get that off the board. Swing in for 10 with Celestial Wing Seraph, which is going to gain me 600 life, so I'm up to 700. Swing in for 9 with Lucifer without lifelink, so it's just going to be the 900 damage. And then I attempt to swing in with Alice to say, well, let's go ahead and try to do lethal, and he blocks with the Genghis Khan. Now, a way I could have played that differently would have been to try to swing in with Alice, and then whatever he tries to block with, I just Stoning to Death and finish the game off. That could have been something I'd done, but I wanted to see what else was going to happen this turn. So it's not looking good for Robert. He's got a huge wall to deal with, wall that he can't target. I've got tons of Resonators on the board. An 18/18 blocker. You know, he doesn't really have a way to deal with Alice. It's just kind of an unfortunate truth of the situation. But what he does instead, to try to, show something for you guys, is he uses Alexander's ability to ping Celestial Wing Seraph for 200. And then pays 3 to do Judgment, and then ping her Celestial Wing Seraph for another additional 800. So he does kill the Celestial Wing Seraph. So now Little Prince is only a 14/14, because I only control 3 different types 3 different costs other than his own. Just gonna swing in with Attila. And then in response to the Attila attack, I'm going to go ahead and flash in a Feasting to negate all the damage from Attila for the turn. This is great because it also now means that I control another different cost other than Little Prince. So now Little Prince is back to being an 18/18. So I block with Little Prince on his Alexander, which kills it, and then he has to pass the turn. And he's tapped out, so there's no way that this next turn isn't going to be lethal. But I'm going to go ahead and show some stuff off for you guys. So I missed something here. I missed the trigger from I tap for stone before the trigger happens, which is incorrect. The trigger for Book of Genesis, which should happen at the very beginning of the main phase, goes up to 3, and I'm able to grab a Seth the Arbiter out of the deck. And essentially what this means is I'm going to try to bring back every single creature that I lost this game back to my hand. Keep my graveyard as empty as possible. So now I'm going to pay the 4 to play a Lucifer. I just played Generate the Will, but I don't actually play it yet. I recur Celestial Wing Seraph back to my hand. Then I play the Lucifer, who will make him sack Attila the Hun, and I get to bring that Elvish Priest back. And then I just give my lifelink for my Lucifer, which then pumps me up to 1600, and I swing in with Little Prince as well to finish the game off. So there you have it, guys. Huge thanks to Corey for sending me this list to be able to show you guys. Like, comment, and subscribe. Deck lists on Saturday. And until then, DMO73 signing off.